Hey guys, it's Ashley from Frontline of Grief, your mortuary science student study hub. How you doing today? I want to make a video for you today about my favorite class, which is Thanatology, the study of death, dying, grief, and bereavement. And this class is really about the psychology of grief and the process of mourning and things like that. And it's often been debated that funeral directors shouldn't really have a role in that. Yes, we're not grief therapists, we're not grief counselors, but we are the front line of the grief. We are the first step of the professionals that a person is encountering in reference to their grief. So of course we're not going to be there long term to help them with things, but we are there to kind of set the tone and help them in the situations that we can help them. And it can also help us a lot in our tasks to be aware of what people are going through and the processes that they're psychologically experiencing during their grief, because that's going to help us be better funeral directors. That's going to help us be less offended when they're yelling at us for no reason. And it's basically going to help everybody if we are more aware of the grieving process. So I love this class. Like I told you in my intro, I've been through grief a lot of times. I've also been in grief therapy and in grief support groups and in grief church things. And I've honestly learned more about grief from just my few weeks of being in this class than I ever learned from any of those settings. So also, if you're not a mortuary science student or interested in being in a mortuary science program, this might also be helpful. Thanatology, learning about it might also be helpful for you processing your own psychological experiences with grief. The first thing I just want to talk about is basically the very first thing you need to know about funeral directors and helping in the grieving process is going to be the helping process. Now, this is a process with 7 phases. And the different phases are indicative of the part of the relationship that you're in with the funeral director or with the client. So the first 2 phases are the exploration stage. Phase 1 is going to be when the client and the funeral director enter into the helping relationship. This is when the client first reaches out to the funeral home. It's a cry for help, really, and this is our initial phase 1 exploration of our relationship. They're letting us know that they need help. Phase 2 is the building of the helping relationship. It's the funeral director building rapport with the client by showing up, by looking nice, by being respectful, by helping them. I've heard of even funeral directors that bring a rose and they leave the rose in the same spot where they took the body from. There's just little things that you can do to build rapport with the client. That's going to be phase 2. And phase 1 and 2 together are in the exploration stage. Moving on to phase 3 is exploration and assistance in helping the family understand their alternatives. Through very active listening and skillful questioning, the funeral director can explain the options to the family based on their needs. So this is where we really need to step back and not give off that funeral director power, I guess you would say. You want to keep the relationship on a level playing field, not be answering questions before you even ask them. Phase 3 with exploration and assistance is when you're really listening to what the family needs and making sure that you're presenting them with all of the options that are going to be possible to meet those needs. Phase 4, we're going to have consolidation and planning. That's after you've explained all the options, you guys have decided on some, and you start planning the funeral with the client. Phase 3 and phase 4 are both in the insight stage. Insight because you're gaining that insight about them, and then you're planning the funeral the way that they've requested it to be. So phase 1 and 2, exploration stage, you're exploring your relationship, kind of feeling each other out. The client lets you know that they need you, and then you respond and build rapport. Those are the exploration 1 and 2. Now 3 and 4, the insight stage. 3, exploring and assisting them and figuring out what options they have. And 4, sorry if that was confusing. And 4 is, helping them plan that out and getting the needs in order. 5, 6, and 7 are all going to be in the action stage. 5 is implementation and action. The funeral director puts on the funeral desired by the family. Phase 6, conclusion of the funeral process. So the funeral director assists the family with a sense of closure, potentially joining them for the dinner afterwards, wrapping everything up and making sure that everything was done the right way, and even sometimes remembering things that maybe they forgot during the service, making sure that everything that they requested from the beginning is being met and concluded. And then phase 7 is going to be the post-funeral follow-up, which is aftercare, reaching out to the family, seeing if there's anything else you can do for them. And this is not a time, let me stress it, to try to arrange a pre-needs counseling. A lot of funeral directors have gotten a bad name because they want to go in for the post-funeral follow-up and say, oh, wasn't it amazing? We should do the same thing for you when you die. And it's just not beneficial. It's not classy. It's not going to help build rapport with the family. And if you actually did do your job, you don't need to pitch yourself right then. They'll come to you when it's time. So let's go back over really quick the 7 phases of the funeral director-client relationship. Phase 1 and 2, exploration. Phase 1, client reaches out to you. Phase 2, you build rapport with them. Phase 3 and 4. 3, you explore the options with the family. 4, you consolidate the options and you get a plan in play. 5, implementation and action. You put the funeral on. 6, the funeral concludes. You help them concluding the funeral, and you help them wrap it up in a way that offers closure for them. And phase 7, you meet with them or call them, check up, see how things are going, see what you need to do. So that's going to be the exploration stage, the insight stage, and the action stage. Those are the 3 stages and the 7 phases. I am so tired, guys. I've been here since 6 o'clock in the morning. I don't know what you guys are doing to study, but I am constantly on campus in the morning because it's the only time that I have, and it's coming up on 11 now, and I've been here since 6, so I think it's time for me to go grab some lunch. I know that video was not super informative, but that is the first thing you need to know about thanatology and the funeral director's role in it. So once you have those 7 phases ingrained in your head, you'll be able to move through a lot more of the psychology stuff with a better understanding of the funeral director's role in those places. So if you have any comments, please let me know. If you have any questions, if I left anything out or misstated anything, please let me know. Positive and negative feedback, welcome. I am a mortuary science student just like you, and just trying to get the job done so we can all be fantastic morticians in the near future. I look forward to seeing you guys more, and I'm going to make you one more video real quick about thanatology, and then I'm wrapping up for today, and I will see you guys on Friday. Okay, bye, see ya.